Thank you, Josh. I've taken a tour around the Zoom room. I invite you to also, if you haven't, just look at who we are with. I see some old beloved friends. And I'm going to begin with a nigun, a wordless melody, which is really a great tool to help us shift out of the um, left mode, right list making, logical, language based into the more affective, heart embodied. So even if we're not going to be able to hear each other, I invite you to hum or sing along with me, or move, or continue to just really take in the faces and the space of sanctity and peace that we hope to cultivate and gather together. Hey da 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 da, hey da da, hey nan da da, di da di da, hey da da, hey da da, hey da da, and da. Hey, hey, da, da, hey, da, da, ya, da, da, hey, da, dan, da, hey, da, 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 hey, da, 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 hey, da, da, hey, da, da, hey, da, da. Hey da da da, hey da 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 da, hey da da, da da and da da di di da ya da da, hey da da, da da and da. Hey die, hey da 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 da. So listening into the space created by the residue the nigun leaves behind. So something happens to me while reading wonderful texts. Occasionally I come to a line that just stops me and says, do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Just stay right where you are with this book. And sometimes I never return to complete the book because there's the gem right there on the page that it may be enough. That may be Dayenu. And so most recently, this happened to me in reading this book called Chovot Alevavot. This book is about 1,000 years old. Duties of the Heart is one of the ways it's been translated. It was actually first written in Arabic by Bachya ibn Pakuda, translated a few decades, some years later by Ibn Tibbon into Hebrew. And this is one of the translations. And the line that just stopped me in my tracks is something I'm going to put into the text, into the chat in a moment. I'm going to put the Hebrew there. I'm going to put the translation there. But I want you to hear it first before you see it. Elohai Anna Emtsaeka. My God, where can I find you? These three words, enough. My God, where can I find you? As I encounter a kind of daily disorientation, I find myself asking that, whether it's about the state of the world or the state of my personal affairs or the state of my mind in any given moment, that kind of exclamation, Elohai, my God, where can I find you? And you know how sometimes God is written G-D, like almost as though God's name is an expletive? Elohai, my God, where can I find you? And then the author, the Machaber, the wisdom teaching follows, Ach ana lo emtsaeka, but where can I not find you? There's a little bit of a paradox or a saying that contains more than can be said. God, where can I find you? God, where can I not find you? Nistarta velo tera'eh. You have concealed yourself, you have hidden yourself, and cannot be seen, cannot be found. Classic metaphor of God playing hide and seek with God's children, with us. Yet v'hakol mimcha maleh. And everything is filled with you. Everything is filled by you. Everything is filled from you. So I've popped those words into the chat and I want to use them as a practice because this text I was just learning, I was enjoying, I was using it to connect with a friend who is also learning this text, but then these words stood out and seemed to say stop and wanted to inform the rest of my life or my practice for now. Elohai ana emtsaeka. And I realized I didn't provide transliteration, so if some friend here who can read Hebrew and likes typing English can transliterate this, that might be helpful. Elohai ana emtsaeka. So whatever your God or the God of your understanding may be, I want to ask a very powerful question that Ruby Sales, the civil rights activist and leader, used. Where does it hurt? Because when we say my God, when we're looking for God in our lives or whatever may fill that question, respond to that question, where does it hurt kind of gets to the heart of the matter. So for you right now, it could be a physical pain. It could be a social, family, relational pain. It could be the pain of the world. Wherever it hurts, I want you to ask that question, God, where are you? Where can you be found? And I also want you to answer yourself or allow the song, allow this practice to answer. Ach ana lo emtsaeka. But, however, ach, where can you not be found? If God is all, if there is a ground, if there is something holding all of the holding, how can this not too be God? How can the pain, how can the suffering, how can the constriction not also be divine in some way? Elohai ana emtsaeka. Ach ana lo emtsaeka. Elohai ana emtsaeka. Ach ana lo emtsaeka. So when we sing that again, I actually invite you to really sing into the pain, sing into the place, or sing into the question. Nistarta, you've concealed yourself. Nistarta, seter. Velo tera, I can't see you. I can't find you. There's a beautiful Quaker hymn that says, if you love not one another in daily communion, how can you love God whom you have never seen? This presence, this unknowable, this infinite, this incorporeal, this transcendent. I can't convince you, and I can't even convince myself necessarily that I really know a sense and intelligence behind all of these things. And yet, hakol mimcha maleh, everything is filled with your glory. We say something like this in the Kedusha, Ayeh mekom kevodo, malo chol haaretz kevodo. Everything is full. So nigunim and this paradox that kind of it asks an unanswerable question and provides a response. Nistata velo tera'eh v'hakol mimcha maleh. Nistata velo tera'eh v'hakol mimcha maleh. So I will sing this a couple of times to lead us into silence or lead us into a place where the nigun kind of goes on autopilot within your mind and really allow these questions of where are you seeking God and where might you encounter in a surprising way the discovery of God was in this place, filling, revealing through the concealment. Elohai Ana Emtsaeka Ach Ana Lo Emtsaeka Elohai Ana Emtsaeka Ach Ana Lo Emtsaeka Nistata velo tera'eh v'hakol mimcha maleh. Nistata velo tera'eh v'hakol mimcha maleh. Da-da-dai, ididai. Hi dai nandai, hi didi dai, hi da dai da dai dai ya da dai, ha da dai, hi dai dai dai, hi da da dai, da da dai da dai dai. Elohai Ana Emtsaeka Ach Ana Lo Emtsaeka Elohai Ana Emtsaeka Ach Ana Lo Emtsaeka Nistarta velo tirael leakol mimcha maleh. Nistarta velo tirael leakol mimcha maleh. So I hope this practice encourages a feeling of the fullness, of presence, of attunement to each other, to your environment, to our world, to your questions, the real value and meaning of our yearning. And to really live in awareness of Akol Mimcha Maleh, that everything is filled with eternal glory.
Thank you, Shir. Thanks so much. So we will have time for, I hope you'll be able to stick around for some questions and conversation and reflections on the practice in a moment. But right now we also have an opportunity for those who are remembering loved ones today. You can enter the name of anyone who you are holding in heart or mind today, reciting Kaddish. And thanks to Rachel for staffing our tech ably today and putting up the text of the Mourner's Kaddish there on the screen. And you're welcome to unmute and join me in reciting the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabba, Alma Divrach Yitei V'yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon V'yamechon V'chayei V'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala, Bizman
Zman
Karev, Yimru,
Karev
Amen.
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 Hey,
Hey,
Shmei
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba
Mivarach,
Mivarach,
Le'olam
Elam
Le'olam
Omer
Vaya.
Maya
Yitbarach,
Yitzhak
V'yishtabach, V'yitpa'ar, V'yit'an, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yit'aleh, V'yithalal, Shmei Kudsha, Brichu,
Brichu,
Le'ela,
Leela
Mikol
Mikol
Birchata,
Birchata
V'shirata,
Shirata
V'shbachata, L'nechamata,
Gamera
V'amiranda Allah, V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehi
Hey
Shlama
Shlama
Rabba Min
Rabba Min
Shemaya
Shemaya
B'chaim
Ba'alei
Aleinu V'al
Kol
Yisrael
Yisrael
V'imru,
V'imru
Amen.
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 Say Shalom
Say Shalom
B'imra,
Bimra
Aseh Shalom
Say Shalom
Aleinu, V'al Kol
Aleinu V'al
Yisrael,
Kol
V'al
Yisrael
Kol Yoshvei
Kol
Tevel.
Yoshvei Tel.
Amen.
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 So thank you, and if you need to leave us, we wish you Tzeitchem L'Shalom, farewell. Hope you can come back soon. And if you are able to stay, we're glad you're able to stay. And if you have a question, we always ask, it's helpful for us if you can put in the chat, just in all caps question. That helps us to see that. And of course, also feel welcome and invited to respond in supportive ways to comments that are in the chat as well. Okay, well, there we go. Amir already has a question. Uh, so what way maybe we'll just we'll dive right in. You brought Rabbi Nubachia right into us 1,000 years later. So Amir has a question. Tell us more about the original author and the place and time that they lived.
I didn't prepare their biography. I think the text is 11th century, or approximately written in approximately 1080 in Spain. It was a time of great, I don't know if that's technically the convivencia, a time of like peaceful coexistence of Jewish and Arab and Christian mystics. I know this text is heavily influenced by the Mullah Kalam, the Arabic scholars of Quran, really emphasizing the text in general is one of the first to emphasize interiority and the spiritual life. So it's almost for those of us in the IJS world, in the Institute for Jewish Spirituality world, or Jewish renewal, the notion of the contemplative, the mindful, even the question Rabbi Josh asked, like, what is your kavanah, what is your intention for being here, has its roots in this text of the notion that chovot levavot are the duties of the heart are equal, if not superior or more binding than the chovot averim, the mitzvot or the duties, the commandments of the hands, of the limbs. We can see behavior, we can't necessarily see mind or spirit, yet Ibn Bachya says like the intention and the interiority we bring to our entire lives is paramount.
Yeah. And Rabbeinu Bach also has a Torah commentary, separate from this, but also one of the one of the earlier mystical texts I think that we sort of encounter in that from the medieval period. So yeah, he's a fascinating figure, uh, and it's usually, the texts that we go to so much in IJS world are Hasidic texts, so to then to go back, which are, it's not like they're brand new. I mean, like they're a few hundred years old also, and yet to be able to reach farther back, there's just a whole other sensibility and set of experiences and conditions that arises in. And so,
Yeah,
yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that in. I was going to ask, actually, I guess I'll nerd out on the music for a moment,
great.
just as a one time as a music major in college myself. But I noticed about the nigun, how that open fifth that you use, and then and so it was an ascent up to it, and then sort of comes back down, and then the last time that I kept wanting to fill it in. I wanted to go, "Ay, ay, la, 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 la." And there was something in that experience of that tonic and dominant thing that was happening there about uh, the text itself, right? About how can I find you and where can I find you, where can I not find you? There's a fullness and an emptiness that we're feeling, we're constantly, dialectically experiencing it or experiencing it all at the same time. And I just wonder, I wonder if that was something, if do you want to talk about your process? But like,
Well,
how that nigun came to you, was it for this text or was it a nigun separate or yeah?
no, the melody came with these words. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes a melody comes and then I find a text to fit it, but it was these words that stopped me. And I love that you hear with the musicology ear, because it's precisely that openness. I wanted that thing to happen in the ear of the listener, right? The text says, maybe things are not as they appear. Maybe there is a fullness. Maybe there is more. And so by singing less, we actually allow the listener to have an affective experience. You see my guitar in the background here, but in the past 2 or 3 years, I've really moved more towards keyboard and synthesizer ambient music. And the thing I love about ambient music is that it creates an environment. It's not necessarily narrative in the way a pop song, something we hear on radio, or even a piece of liturgy. It tells us something and takes us through acts or a beginning, middle, and end. Ambient music is very much about ambience. And so less is more, and allowing some sort of deep fundamental, and I mean that both in the musical sense, but in an energetic sense. What would it be like to hear the response in the question? And so much does happen over a drone. So a lot of this, it's so cool that you're hearing this and it is coming through, is really about tonic and dominant, or ground and emptiness, form and emptiness. So
Mm.
yeah. And yeah, that was those melody. This is the first time that song has been sung, except to that Chevruta who I mentioned, like was learning this text as well. So this is a baby that's just been launched into the world.
Thank you for sharing it. And apologies if the music nerdiness left like we
Wait,
can
why would medieval Jewish text nerdiness be acceptable, but music nerdiness not? I
okay,
mean, come on, we
exactly,
can bring
right.
all the nerdiness.
And we want to make it all accessible to everybody. So thank you, and I love some of the responses. That was great. There was a longer question here from Lori that I want to come to. I'm asking myself, where do I seek and find God? I jump quickly to Gamza Latova, um, right? This faith that this also is for the good. However, it strikes me that this veers into toxic positivity. How do we seek God even in the most horrible, heartbreaking situations without trying to convince ourselves that it's all good? Kol tuv.
Yeah.
Great question, Lori. Thank you.
That Gamzilla Tova is something that we can choose to say, a practice we can apply to ourselves, but it's rather cruel to impose upon anyone else or any other situation.
Mm.
Um, I would probably botch this too, but Levinas, Emmanuel Levinas says something similar. It's like suffering is useless in me, but it generates the other. It generates compassion in a certain way. And it's no, I'm certainly not asking. I don't know if this text is asking for any of us to face the horrors, the tragedy, the pain of the world and say that it's good. But this practice is inviting us to turn towards it and say that it is. It's say that the
Mhm.
suffering is there, the pain is there, um, because naming it actually helps us diffuse and disarm it to some degree, even if this is just like a jumble of complicated emotions. I mean, I'm raising 3 kids, one of whom just became a teenager, right? Even if the the complex hormonal world of conflicting emotions um, is excruciating or uncontainable, just being able to name like that those feelings or those experiences are, helps us not do that bypass, not do that toxic, what did you say, toxic positivity or spiritual bypass. And when we say it hurts, what like, where are you in this painful, horrible, horrendous situation? We also see, oh, I want there to be less pain, less suffering, more wholeness, more hope, more faith, more good. So they're imbricated, they're woven together. They're not two necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you talked about just, sort of seeing what is, and the notion of Hakol Mimcha Maleh. I mean, it takes me to, we have the blessing that we say every morning, is, right after Baruch Hu in the liturgy, Yotzer Or Uvorei Choshech, Oseh Shalom Uvorei Et Hakol, the divine that creates both light and darkness, makes peace and creates all, which is, of course, also an adaptation or an emendation of, a line in Isaiah that says it's actually Oseh Shalom Uvorei Ra, right, who creates peace and also creates evil, right, and those things that we see as bad. And so the notion of Hakom Mimcha Maleh, I think invites us, that it all comes from you. You fill everything, is an invitation into relationship. The mimcha part, the cha part of that, right? That it's directional. It doesn't just come from some place out there. And this maybe actually distinguishes, I think, Jewish spirituality from sometimes when we talk about Buddhist approaches to mindfulness. I mean, we're looking for a relationship with an animating life force of the universe, and that we believe it's there, and and that the invitation is into the relationship and honesty about the relationship. It's not all, um, you know, roses and rainbows and unicorns. So, absolutely. Uh, I'm with you on that. A lot of good comments about the music nerdiness, um, and and already some requests that you need to teach more. So that's wonderful. I'm actually struck by this comment from Nicole, who says half the Psalms are kvetches.
Mhm, mhm.
That's great. Um, that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, Heschel talks about the pathos of the prophets, right? The real feeling and the imperfection. The Torah is full of anti-heroes who are constantly not doing the right thing the first time. Um, and that's a beautiful part of the tradition if we can hold the complexity that, yeah, okay, great. King David also was moaning and saying, God, where are you? Because that's a real human experience. Even for the most adept, there's no, we're all falling down. We're all falling through God. That Buddhist emptiness can be real terrifying if you encounter it. And that yearning for you, like, I don't want to fall through universe without you. Am I in you? Even if the game is hide and seek, or God is constantly hiding or winking, or was that
Mm,
like peering through the lattice work.
yeah. Um, Molly wants to know, we should give a plug if you have a website where people can hear your nigunim or purchase your music.
Yeah, so I use the name Shir Meira now, but my previous musical composition and content, like on Spotify, would be is often also found under Shir Yaakov, Shir Meira. I'm doing more one-on-one hashpa'ah, spiritual direction these days. But several of my albums are still there at shiryaakov.com and also on Spotify and YouTube. I think someone earlier asked, can we have this nigun on YouTube? I think this was recorded and will be sent up.
I'll be there.
And I send out a very occasional. I do have a SoundCloud, which is at Shiryakov is also at Shiryakov. So SoundCloud.com/Shiryakov. I have my albums and nigunim up there as well. And I will be teaching again for IJS in January or February. They ask us teachers to sign up no more than once a month. I will be
We
doing
want to
more.
keep, we try, there's a lot of great people out there. And so we want to
Incredible.
keep
I mean, I
variety.
look at the list, I'm like, wow.
yeah, and there's unity and variety, another principle. There you go, in art making and and
Yeah.
music making. Great. These are wonderful comments, and yeah, and James, my friend James is a fan of We Are Loved,
Mhm.
so which is a great. If you don't know Shir's music, you'll discover that you might recognize a lot of the tunes they've made their way around.
Yeah.
One of the most influential Jewish composers out there these days. So. Really a delight and a pleasure, and I'm so grateful for your teaching and for your music today. And we really look forward to having you back in the new year. And I want to thank everybody for joining us for the sit today. Really wonderful to be with you, and we'll be back here tomorrow, same time, same channel. So until
Thank
then,
you for
blessings,
having me.
everybody.
Be
Thank you.
well.
Okay, take care.